Good evening, guys. In the last session, theoretically, we understood what is query parameter and what is path parameter. So today, we are going to see practically what is query parameter, what is path parameter, and how to work with them. Query parameters. Query parameters are also called as request parameters. Query parameters are also called as request parameters. These are used to send the data to server in the form of key value. As we discussed already, they will represent data in the form of key value format, will present at the end of the URL. At end of the URL, starts with the question mark. Query parameters are going to start with the question mark symbol in the URL. They are going to start with question mark symbol, right? Next one will be separated by AND operator. Query parameters, if you have multiple, they will be separated by AND operator. So the best example that we can take, www.ashokitech.com/course question mark name is equal to course question mark here. Question mark represents it is the start point of the query parameter. Course at the rate name is equal to SBMS and trainer is equal to Ashok. So like this, we can represent the data in the form of query parameter. Query parameters are used to represent the data in the form of key value, and query parameters will present at the end of the URL, and they will start with the question mark, and they will be separated by AND symbol. Will start with question mark symbol and will be separated by AND symbol. Will be separated by AND symbol. So this is the example URL to represent that query parameters. Then if client is sending the query parameters in the URL, how our Spring controller will read the query parameters? To read query parameters, we will use @request param annotation. To read query params, we will use @request param annotation. Right? That is a predefined annotation in the Spring Web MVC. By using this annotation, we can read the query parameters coming in the URL. To read query parameters, we will use @request param annotation. All right. Let me develop one example on this part. 15th application we created last time, and here there is a controller called book controller is available. For the book controller, this we developed in the last session, book controller class. To represent this class as a controller, I'm using @controller annotation. Then I'm creating a method. My method is returning model and view. Model represents data in the form of key and value. View represents logical file name. So this method is having URL pattern. It is binded to get request /message is the URL pattern. Request param. So request param means this name is a variable which is going to get the data from the URL. You see, this is the sample URL. Localhost :8080/message question mark name is equal to Ashok. So whenever you send a request to the URL, /message is the URL pattern binded to this method. Now, dispatcher servlet is going to call the method. When the dispatcher servlet is going to call the method, dispatcher servlet will understand that this method is expecting a parameter. That parameter value should come from the request param annotation. So @request param annotation is used to read the data from the URL. So now here, what is the key of the query parameter? Query parameter will represent the data in the key value format, right? Whatever the key that comes in the URL, with that key name, we are going to write the parameter name. When the key is matching with the parameter, then that key value will be stored to our variable. That is the power of request param annotation. Now, let's run this application. Right click, run as boot application. So I'm trying to run this Spring Boot application. So there is only one controller at this moment that is binded to get request /message. It is expecting query parameter. Go to browser and try to access our application. Okay. So our application is running on the embedded server. The default port number of that server is 8080. 8080/message. This is the URL. First, I am trying to send the request to that URL without query parameter. Now, it is giving exception. Missing servlet request parameter exception. Required request parameter name for the method parameter string is not present. So when I send a request to this URL, as we discussed earlier, dispatcher servlet will receive the request. Dispatcher servlet will give the request to handler mapper. Handler mapper identified that this request should be handled by this controller class and this method. That method is expecting a parameter. So, but dispatcher servlet is directly trying to call this method without passing the parameter, because I'm not passing the parameter in the URL. So there is nothing available to send as a parameter for that method for the dispatcher. So then it is giving the exception. So now what I will do is question mark name is equal to some Raju. I'm giving name is equal to Raju, question mark, message, question mark, name is equal to Raju. Name is equal to Raju, I have to supply. It is a query parameter that will start with the question mark symbol. Question mark, name is equal to Raju. So when I send a request with the name is equal to Raju, the message, it is having some issue here. Fine, let 1 second, let me check this. Go to my application message. It is trying to return the index page by using model and view object. So let me go here, message, question mark, name is equal to Raju. When I send name is equal to Raju, response is coming or my page is downloading, guys. If you observe, when I send a request to this URL, that JSP is rendered or that JSP page is downloaded, that JSP page is downloaded. The reason for that is in our project pom.xml, we have not added Tomcat embed Jasper dependency. We are using JSP as a presentation technology. When we are using JSP as a presentation technology, we need to specify embed Jasper dependency. Now, in the previous application we used, right, this dependency we need to add explicitly when our project is having Tomcat embedded server. Here we are using JSP as a presentation technology, that JSP should be rendered and it should provide the response. For that we need to add Tomcat embed Jasper dependency. When you don't add the Tomcat embed Jasper dependency, that JSP file is getting downloaded. Okay guys, now let me type the URL once again, localhost colon 8080/message question mark name is equal to Raju. Now page is downloading again. I think we need to stop and start the server. We have made the dependency change, class path got changed, refresh, run as boot application. Run as boot application. Got it? Yeah. Clear the console, send the request now. Localhost colon question mark message name is equal to Raju. So this time, are you able to process that JSP? Are we getting the message Raju good evening? If you give the name is equal to Raju, it is giving Raju good evening. If I give the name is equal to John, it is giving the message John good evening. If I give the message as Butler, now Butler good evening. So whatever the message you are, whatever the name that you are passing in the request parameter, our Spring controller is able to read that value and it is sending that as a response. Now, how I am reading that query parameter value in the Spring controller? To read that query parameter value in the Spring controller, we are using one annotation called @request param. See here, in the URL, my key name is same, which is having method parameter name. So whatever the key name you are giving, same name you need to give for the method parameter, then it will read that value by default. Suppose if your key name and method parameter name are different. Suppose for example, string up, I'm giving this as a uname. Parameter name I'm giving as a uname. Now, so in the query parameter, I'm passing a different value. When I pass a different value in the query parameter, how that query parameter value will be binded to my method parameter. My method parameter name is uname. but in the URL, I'm sending as a name. Send the request, I'm getting exception because here the key is name, but here my method parameter is uname. So how to map that query parameter to my method variable? Then you need to specify the key name here. What is the key? Key is the name, which is coming in the URL. Whatever the name value is available, I want to map that name value to my uname. So when you need to specify this name, the key and method parameter name are different. Then you need to specify the key name. Then it will read the data from the URL. Then it will store that value into our variable. Now see here, I have changed it. Now go to browser, send the request. Name is equal to Butler. Butler, good evening. Here parameter is name is equal to Butler. So this is one query parameter. Query parameter is used to send the data to server in the URL, right? That query parameter always will present at the end of the URL. Query parameters will start with the question mark. Query parameters will be separated by AND operator. Suppose if you are having more than one query parameter, then you can separate them by using AND operator. So here I am specifying the key. If I don't specify the key, if the parameter name and the key name are same, then you no need to specify that. So key is name and my parameter is also name, then we no need to specify the key here. Automatically request param with this key, it will take and map the value to our variable. So in our method, we can access that request parameter value and we can perform the operation. Like this, we can deal with the query parameters. We can have more than one query parameter also. Let me take one more method, get mapping. This time I'm going to create in the book controller, I'm going to create one more method, get book data. Get book data. Request param, string name and string trainer. String name and string trainer. Okay, right. Or string author. Let me change the name to author. String name and string author. Like this, I'm taking a method. This URL pattern I am binding to /book. Okay. Now I want to read the data from this URL. Now, how the request will come? Let me show you the sample URL here. So this is my method, which is having the URL pattern like this, Let me take this. I'm taking my URL pattern /book question mark, name is equal to Spring and author is equal to Johnson. Like this. Localhost :8080/book. Up to this, it is okay. Then after this, I need to represent my query parameter. Query parameters will start with a question mark. Key value. This is one query parameter and author is equal to Johnson. This is another query parameter. First query parameter and the second query parameter. So like this, we can develop the Spring controller, which is expecting the data from the URL, right? Name and author, two query parameters I'm taking. Just let me print this system.out.println. Whatever the name that we are passing, are we able to get that name into our controller class or not? Just for our understanding purpose, I'm printing that data on the console. So later we can use that data to perform our business operation. System.out.println, name and here author. Whatever the data that is coming for the author key, I want to print that on the console. Okay, guys. So message, whatever the data that you want to send, that data we can send. Book is out of stock. Something like this. I want to print that value. Name, Spring Boot, book name by author. Whatever the value you type. Right? By author. Whatever the name by author is out of stock. So whatever the value that you send in the URL, same value I'm sending to the browser as a response with the /book. So this will be my URL pattern, right? Let's try to run our application again. run as boot application, clear the console, my application started, it's running. Now go to the browser and make a request. So this is my URL pattern. So my method is available. This method is expecting two query parameters. One is name, another one is author. So here method parameter is name and author. So in the URL also, name is the key and author is the another key. So this is the first key value pair and this is the second key value pair. So let us take this URL, copy this URL, go to the browser, paste it, enter. Now see, Spring by Johnson is out of stock. Here I am passing name is equal to Spring, author is equal to Johnson. Go to our console, name is Spring, author is Johnson. That means, are we able to read two query parameters by using this method? In the above method, we are reading only one query parameter. In the below method, we are reading two query parameters. Are you guys able to understand what is query parameter and why we need to go for query parameter? Are you guys able to understand what is query parameter and why we need to go for query parameter? Yeah. So what is the query parameter? Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the key value format. We can send the data to server in the URL by using this query parameter. To send data to server in URL. Data will be represented in the key value format. Will present at end of the URL. Starts with question mark symbol. It will be separated by and symbol. This is the URL. Course question mark. Name is equal to SBMS. Trainer is equal to Ashok. To read query parameters, we will use request param annotation. Are you guys clear with my point? Now, next one, how to work with path parameters. So path parameters means path variable annotation will be available. So by using path variable annotation, we can read the data from the path parameters. That's fine. Now here guys, I'm able to send the data to server by using get request. Now here, what I want to do is, I want to return the data in the form of model and view. I'm doing that. Similarly, we can return the data in the another way also. We can develop this method in the another approach also. That we can see that later. Now here, I'm going to create one more controller class, that is car controller. I'm going to create a class with a name called car controller. So to represent this class as a controller, I'm using one annotation called @controller annotation. Now here, I'm going to write a method public model and view get car color. So now here, I'm going to take string car ID. I want to take the string car ID, right? Or else I want to take the car ID that is integer. Okay. So my method is taking integer car ID as a parameter and it is returning model and view object. So model and view means represents data in the form of key and value. Right. Let me create model and view object. Model and view MAV is equal to new model and view object. I have created that. Then return model and view object. I'm trying to return model and view object. Perfect. Now here this method I am binding to get request @get mapping /car ID. So whenever you are representing the data as a path parameter, that where that path parameter will present in the URL, you need to represent as a template here. For query parameter, that is not required because query parameter will always present at the end of the URL. Query parameters will start with the question mark symbol. It will represent the data in the key value. Whereas when it comes to the path parameter, what is the purpose of the path parameter? Path parameters are also called as URI parameters. Path parameters are also called as URI parameters. To send a data to server in the URL, it will represent data directly. It will represent data directly. No keys. No keys. Can present anywhere in the URL. Can present anywhere in URL. Okay. Starts with a slash. Starts with the slash. So there is no separation. Directly will be available like this. Now here ashokit.com/course/SBMS directly. That's it. Now this SBMS we can consider as a path parameter. To read the path parameters from the URL, we are going to use one annotation called @path variable annotation. Clear? Query parameters we have seen. Query parameters are used to send the data to server in the URL. Path parameters also used to send the data to server in the URL. Path parameter will represent data directly without any keys. Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Path parameters will start with the slash symbol. Now, if you observe here, I'm taking path parameter. I'm writing a method, get mapping. This method is having /car. /car is URL pattern, car ID. So that means after the car, whatever the value coming in the URL, that is considered as a path variable. How to map in the URL car ID will come. That car ID should be stored into my car ID variable. That's where here we are going to specify an annotation called @path variable annotation. We are going to specify one annotation that is called path variable annotation. So whatever the value you send in the URL after the car ID, this variable mapped to this placeholder, we need to represent path parameters in the placeholder. Here car, now I am specifying HY. So this is path parameter /car/HYD, that is URL pattern. Okay, only car ID is the path parameter. Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. All right, whatever the car ID is available. Now I'm going to take string color. String color is equal to null value. Okay, now what I will do is, if car ID is greater than or equal to 100, then I will represent color is equal to red. Something like this. Now, else if car ID greater than or equal to 200. Okay. Now, if car ID is greater than or equal to 200, then I will give the color as red. Else, I am going to give color is equal to black. Something like this. Okay. This is my message that I just want to print it. Now, let me create the model and view object. Let me store the data. Let me store the data. And let me send this data. Now, this is my message. So, in this message, I want to store a value. Okay. Car color is given value. Okay. So, whatever the color that you are giving, that value will be displayed. Just print that variable. Car color. I'm setting that message to the model object in the form of key and value, and I'm returning the view name, index page. So here, if you see, query parameters will present at the end of the URL. But if you see, path parameter can present anywhere in the URL. As path parameters can present anywhere in the URL, for path parameters, we need to represent using template. So here, car ID, curly braces are there. So these curly braces are special effects which are used to represent that it is a path parameter. Perfect, guys. Good. Perfect, guys. Now let's try to send the request, run as boot application, clear the console, send the request, application started. Now go to our browser and make a request. So /car ID /HY. Okay. So /car ID, I'm giving as 120/HY. Now, so I'm sending a request to this. Let us see our browser. Car color is red. So am I able to send 120 as a path parameter? Guys, am I able to send 120 as a path parameter to my server? Yes, I'm able to send 120 as a path parameter to my server. How to read the path parameters from the URL? How to read path parameters from the URL? To read path parameters from the URL, we are using path variable annotation. To read path parameters from the URL, we are using path variable annotation. How to read the query parameters from the URL? Using request param. So whenever we are writing the methods, query parameters, directly URL pattern will be available. Path parameter. If the method is expecting a path parameter, that path parameter should be represented in the URL like this. If your method is expecting a path parameter, that path parameter should be represented in the URL like this. Are you clear? Are you guys clear? Can I have more than one path parameter in the URL? Guys, can I have more than one path parameter in the URL? Yes, we can have more than one path parameter also in the URL. Let me take another method. Let me show you that. /stock. Okay. Now I'm going to take two path parameters. One is brand / location / log, like this. Now get car stock. Now in my URL, how many path parameters are represented? Guys, in my URL, how many path parameters are represented? Can you guys tell me? In my URL, I have one path parameter or I have two path parameters. In my URL, I have one path parameter or I have two path parameters. I have two path parameters. Two path parameters. Okay. So brand is one path parameter. Location is one path parameter. Okay. Now let me take these path parameters as our method parameters. So first one is string brand. Okay. Second one is string log. I'm going to say location. So whatever you specify here, same thing I'm taking as a parameter name, so that the value which is coming in the URL at this location will be binded to this variable. The value which is coming at this location will be stored to this variable. So here variable name and parameter name is same, so it will map them automatically. Okay, let me store this message. mav dot add object. mav dot add object key comma value. Key I'm giving as a message. Attribute value. So value, whatever you want that you can specify. Okay. In log. In this location, given brand cars out of stock. Something like this. Okay. So I'm trying to set the data to the model object. So in given location, shift cars out of stock, like this. So brand is one path parameter, location is one path parameter. Suppose here, can I use location? Can I use location here? If I use location here, this also should be location. If I use log here, here we need to keep it as log here. So here, this is my first path parameter. This is my second path parameter. Stock. This is URL pattern. Location is URL pattern. This placeholder will represent in which position, in which location path parameter will be available in the URL. All right. Now, what is the sample URL to access this? The sample URL http://localhost:/stock/brand. So let me go for bench/location/hy. So here bench is one path parameter that representing brand value. HYD one path parameter value representing location value. Right. This is the URL pattern to access this method. Now here car ID, you can give any value slash car slash 101 slash HYD. Here 101 will represent as a car ID, path parameter. Here Benji is one path parameter and HYD is one path parameter. So when your method is expecting path parameter, those path parameters should be represented in the URL pattern. Perfect. Now let me send the request to this URL and see, are we able to take two path parameters? How to read the path parameters in the URL? To read the path parameters in the URL, we need to use the annotation which is path variable. Path variable is the annotation that we need to use here to read the data from the URL and store into our method parameter. Perfect. Now copy this URL, right click, run as boot application. Application started, clear the console. Now go to our car controller. This is the first method URL pattern. Go to browser. Now here send a request to that URL. This is first method, car color is coming as red. Now go to second method URL pattern. This is my second method URL pattern. Copy this, go here and paste it. In HYD, Benji cars out of stock. HYD is one path parameter. Benji is also one path parameter. So with this, can I say path parameter can present anywhere in the URL? With this, can I say path parameters can present anywhere in the URL? Yes, path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Are you clear with my point? Path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. Query parameters should present only at the end of the URL, whereas path parameters can present anywhere in the URL. So this is the example for path parameter. Query parameter example and path parameter example. Query parameter example. Similarly, path parameter example. Yeah. So with this, we understood how to send a GET request to the server and how to send the data to the server in the GET request in the URL. So in the URL, we can send the data in the form of query parameters or path parameters. Perfect. Now here, guys, as of now, we have created our controller, and in that controller, we are writing a method. That method is binded to GET request, and a method is returning model and view. In the controller, we can develop the methods in two ways, guys. Okay, let me create one controller here. New class, my controller. My controller. Now we know that already. In order to represent the class as a controller, we are using @controller annotation. Here also we can use @controller annotation. To represent our class as a controller, we are using @controller annotation. Now in this, I want to write one method, public, the regular method that we are already writing. Let me copy from here. One approach we are following like this, copy and paste it here. I want to show you the difference. How many ways we can develop our controller methods. Get mapping, get message. So here, let me keep it as welcome, get welcome message. Get welcome message, right? So here I'm going to give the message as welcome to Ashokai. I'm going to give the message as welcome to Ashokai. So public, model and view, get welcome message, request param, string name. So whatever the name that you are passing, that name I'm taking and I'm printing that name in the response, and I'm sending the response in the form of a model. Model dot add object key comma value, set view name, index page. In the index page, I'm accessing this key. So whatever the value available, that value will be displayed. This is one way to develop our controller method. Similar to this, we can write a controller method. That is the second approach. Let's observe carefully the difference between the first method and second method. Public string get greet message. Get greet message. In this greet message also, I'm taking a request param string name. Right, comma. I'm taking one more object called model object. So the method return type here is the string, and it is having model object as a parameter, and one query parameter is also available. Now here I'm going to specify model.add attribute key comma value. My key is message and my value whatever you want, right? The name is coming from query parameter. So here I'm going to specify good evening. Here I'm going to specify good evening. Perfect. Then I'm going to set return index. That's it. I'm going to return index. This method I want to bind to a get request. For that I'm using annotation called get mapping / greet. First method is binded to get request. Second method is also binded to get request. First method URL pattern is a /welcome. Second method URL pattern is a /greet. So this is my controller. So in one controller, I have two methods binded to get request, but the syntax of the two methods is different. I want you to observe what is the difference between the first method and second method that I have created. Just look at the methods and see what difference that you observe. Look at these two methods and observe the difference. One method will give welcome message, another method will give greet message. That's it. But there is some difference between these two methods. I want you to identify what is the difference between these two methods here. I want to identify what is the difference between these two methods here. Come on, guys. In the first method, we are taking the return type as model and view. In the second method, we are taking the return type as a string. So whatever the string return type I'm taking, this string return type will represent the view name. Whatever the view that you want to return, that view name will be represented by string. Whatever the model is available, that model we are taking as a method parameter. Whatever the data that we want to send to the UI, that data we can send by using this model object. Whatever the data that you want to send to the UI, that data you can send by using this model object. Now, let's try. Send a request to this application. Right click, run as boot application. Clear the console. Go to the browser and make a request. One is welcome, another one is greet. Localhost :8080 /welcome. Whiteable error page 404. Why 404? It is expecting query parameter. What it is doing, guys? It is expecting query parameter. I'm not passing that query parameter. /welcome $?welcome ? Name is equal to some David. Still 404. Name is equal to David. Welcome. Okay, there is a wrong in the URL pattern. Sorry. So there is a spelling mistake in the URL pattern. It is welcome. Perfect. I have corrected that URL pattern now. Go here. Welcome name is equal to David. Can you see? David, welcome to Ashok IT. Okay, we are getting the response. Similarly, let's go to second method. I'm giving the URL pattern as greet. Name is equal to David. David, good evening. Is there any change in the response side, guys? No, there is no change in the response. Both are working as expected. But what is the difference? Which one is easy to write? Which one is easy to write? First approach or second approach? Which one is easy to write? First approach or second approach? Second approach, right? So in the second approach, we are taking string as a return type, model object as a parameter. So this string represents logical view name. Which view you want to return? Which view you want to return from this page? That can be represented by using string. This model, what data you want to send from the server to client, that can be represented by using model. Okay, model is an object similar to map. Model is a object which is similar to map. It is used to store the data in the form of key and value. Model.add attribute key comma value. I'm sending the data to the server in the form of key and value. I'm sending the data to the server. I'm sending the data from the server to the UI in the form of key and value by using model. So earlier we have seen query parameter and path parameter. Query parameter and path parameters are used to send the data from client to server. Model is used to send the data from server to client. Are you guys getting my point? Query parameter, path parameter, we use it to send the data from client to server. Now, model we are using to send the data from server to client. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point, guys? Are you clear with my point? What is the purpose of this model? Earlier, we have model and view object. We need to create the model and view. We need to add the object. We need to set the view, and we need to return the model and view. Instead of doing all those things, directly you can take string as a return type. What is the purpose of string? That string represents logical view name. What is that string? That string represents logical view name. So now, whatever that string is taking, return type of your method, that return type represents logical view name of your method. So how my method can send the data to the client? That's where we are taking model as a parameter. Model is a map which is used to send the data from server to client. Now, whatever the data that I want to send to the index page, I'm storing that data into this model object. Model.add attribute key comma value. This is my key and this is my value. Then I will send that model data to the UI by using this model.add attribute. Perfect. You can develop controller method like this, or you can develop controller method like this also. This is the easiest approach. Most of the people will follow this second approach to develop controller methods. Most of the people will follow this second approach to develop our controller methods. Able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? Most of the people will follow this second approach to develop controller methods. We can develop controller methods in two ways. One is by taking model and view as a return type, by taking only string as a return type. When you take string as a return type, you need to take model as a parameter if you want to send the data. Okay, guys, we can develop controller methods in two ways. We can develop controller methods in two ways. We can develop controller methods in two ways. One is by taking model and view as a return type. By taking model and view as return type. Second one is by taking string as a return type. By taking string as return. So I have given the two approaches here. One is by using model and view as a return type. Another one is by using string as return. Model and view. Two approaches. Anything is fine, guys. Most of the people will prefer second approach to develop controller methods. Anything is fine. Anything is fine. Most of the people will prefer second approach to write the controller methods because it is easy. String we are taking as a return type. That string represents logical view. Here, method return type is a string which represents logical view name. Model is used to send data from controller to UI. From controller to UI in key value format. Got it? Model is used to send the data from controller to UI in key value format. Are you guys clear with my point? Method return type is a string which represents logical view name. Model is used to send the data from controller to UI in key value format. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you clear with this example? Are you clear with this example? Yeah, look at this. This is one method and this is another method. Both are behaving same, but the only thing is development style is different. Instead of taking this object, I'm taking string as a return. Perfect. So with this, we are able to understand how to develop GET request methods. Okay. HTTP GET request. Generally, we will send the GET request to get the data from the server. So client is sending a GET request to get the data from the server. When the client is sending a GET request, if client want to send the data to the server, like ID something, name, then you can go for path parameter or you can go for query parameter. Clear, guys? Next one, we need to understand how to develop forms by using Spring Web MVC. Next one, how to develop the forms by using Spring Web MVC. Forms development. Clear, guys? Next one is forms development. So forms are very common things in every web application. Login form, registration form, set form, forget password form, like this. A number of forms will be available. Forms are essential part in web application. Forms are essential part in web application. Forms are used to collect the information from the user for business operation. Forms are used to collect data from users to perform business operation. Got my point, guys? Forms are essential part in the web applications. Forms are used to collect the data from user to perform business operations. Now, I want to develop one simple form, and when I submit that form, I want to capture that form data. That's it. And I want to display a success message. Okay, simple form with the 3 fields I want to develop and I want to capture that form data. All right, guys. Now, let me create one project, new Spring Starter project. So this is my 16th application, Spring Web MVC Form App. Web MVC Form App I'm going to take. Click on Next. Spring Web Dependency and Dev Tools. Next and finish. A project is getting created. Just one book form I want to develop, and I want to take that form data. Right here, start class is created, main resources are there. Go to form.xml file. We need to add Tomcat embed Jasper dependency because we are using JSP as a presentation technology. When we are using JSP as a presentation technology, JSP files will not be compiled by default. We need to add this Tomcat embed Jasper dependency in the form.xml. Otherwise, your JSP files will be downloaded. Instead of processing the JSP file, it is going to download the JSP file if you don't add this dependency. All right, guys, perfect. So now I have added the dependency. Now I want to create one view file, form, right? So first, let me prepare my form ready in the main web app. I'm creating a folder. That folder name I'm giving as views. You can give any name for that folder. Inside that, I'm writing one HTML file or one JSP file you can create. So JSP file I'm going to create. The JSP name I'm giving as index.jsp. Next and finish. Now, in this JSP, I want to create a form, right? So to create a form, basic HTML tags only I'm going to take now. So form, I'm taking the action is equal to some value, right? Form action is equal to some value, method is equal to post. I'm going to submit the form by using post request. So here for beauty, I'm taking a table. In the table, we will have TR. In the TR, we will have TD and table row, table data, TD and TD. So here I'm taking name and here I'm taking email. Sorry, it is name, input, type is equal to text. Okay, name is equal to name. That's it. This is a name field. Similarly, I'm going to take email and phone number. Name is available. Let me go for email. Input type is equal to email and name is equal to email. Next one is phone number. Input type is equal to number and name is equal to phone number. I want one submit button to submit this form data. Right. Input type is equal to submit, then value is equal to save or submit. Anything is fine. Value is equal to submit. Now, here action is equal to user. I'm giving action is equal to user. This user will be the URL pattern and this method is equal to post. I want to submit the form with the post request. All right. Now my form is ready. My JSP is ready. Okay. Let me configure my view resolver in the properties file. Spring.mvc.view.prefix is equal to /views. Then spring.mvc.view.suffix is equal to .js. MVC view prefix and view suffix. I have given view resolver details also. The only pending part is my controller creation. New class. I'm going to create one package with a name called controller. Here I'm taking that class name as user controller. Now in this user controller, I'm going to use @controller to represent this class as a controller class. @controller addition. Okay, guys. Now here I'm going to write two methods, guys. One is binded to get request. Another one is binded to post request. Get request method is used to display the form. Post request method is used to handle the form submission. Get request method is used to handle the form, is used to display the form. Post request is used to handle the form submission. So what data is coming from the form? From the form, we are getting user data. So to represent the form data, I'm going to take one binding class that is called user class form bindings. I'm considering this as a binding class. User. In the user class, 3 variables I'm going to take: private string name, private string email, private long phone number. Let me generate setters getters for these variables. Right. Let me override toString method also for this to print the content of the object. Okay. I'm overriding toString method. Perfect. Now user controller. In the user controller, I will be writing 2 methods. Public string. First one is load form. Public string load form. Nothing, I want to send one empty form. That is my index. That's it. Okay. Bind this to a get request at the rate get mapping slash. So this method will execute and it will return index. What is index? Index is my JSP, which will display form. That's it. Now, when user run this application and access this application, see what will happen. Refresh, run as boot application. One empty method is there, which is used to display our form page. That's it. Localhost colon 8080. One method is used for loading the form. For that, I'm using get request. For form submission, we will use post request. All right. Are we able to see the form is displayed? Are we able to see the form is displayed? Yes, form is displayed. Okay. Let me give some name for the form. Index.jsp. So this is, let me consider it as H3 user form. Now, let me send a request. There is no URL pattern, just empty. So it is coming as a user form. Name is available. Email is available. Name is available. Name is available. Name is available. Email is available. And phone number is available. Are you guys clear? Perfect. Now, user form is there. First time I'm executing my application and I'm sending a request. So here user controller is available. That controller is having empty URL pattern. Empty URL pattern. Okay, guys. Empty URL pattern. Now, when I'm running this application, I'm sending the request to this URL. I'm sending the request to this URL, localhost colon 8080. When I send the request to this URL, my controller method got executed. In that controller method, slash is available. Slash means this method is executing. There is no business logic, just return index. What is index? Index is my JSP file. In that JSP file, form is available. Now, in that form, there are 3 fields available: name, email, phone number, and submit button is available. Now, I can click on submit button. I can submit the form. When the form is submitted, I want to capture the form data. For that, we need one method in the controller. So for that, I'm going to write one more method: public string handle submit button. Handle submit button. Now this method should be binded to post request. Why? Because in that form I have given it as a post request, post mapping / user. You see, method action is equal to user. This is my URL pattern. Method is equal to post. That means this form will be submitted with a post request. That should be handled by using post mapping method. Here I'm taking user object as a parameter. Here I'm taking user object as a parameter. Right. Just let me print that user on the console. System.out.println user data. Whatever the form is submitted, is that form data coming to that user object or not? I want to see that. Now, here I want to send the data to the browser, to the UI by using model object. So here I'm going to take model, right? Model dot add attribute, key comma value, message. Okay. So here message, I'm going to save it as user save. Later we will integrate our JPA logic to save that user. Then I'm going to return index as my presentation file. Return index. Perfect. So here I'm creating one method. That method is binded to get request. This first method is used to load the empty form. Empty page will be loaded. Now here I have a second method. This second method is binded to post request. This is used to handle the form submission. So when user submit the form, this method will be called. Guys, do I have the logic to capture the form data? If you see here in my method, do I have the logic to capture the form data, or I don't have the logic to capture the form data? Do I have logic to capture the form data, or I don't have the logic to capture the form data? We don't have the logic to capture the form data. Okay. Now let's verify. Stop the server. Right click. Run as boot application. Clear the console. Perfect. Okay. Localhost / 8080. My first page is loaded. Get request method is executed. I'm sending a request without URL pattern. If you see localhost / 8080, that's it. Directly, I'm sending the URL request. Localhost / 8080. Form is loaded. Enter the data. Ashok IT, some phone number. That's it. See the console, guys. In my console, nothing is available. Clear that console. Now click on submit. Now go to the console. Wow. Form data is stored in the user object or no? That means form data is coming and storing into my user object or not? Whatever the data that I entered, is the data coming to the user object or not? Now verify with one more data. Let me go for some Raja. Email ID raja.k@gmail.com. Phone number 123321. Perfect. Click on submit. Now go to console. Name is equal to Raja. Email and phone number. Are we able to get that? Are we able to get that? Come on, guys. Who is capturing that form data? Initially, if you remember, we discussed in the WebMVC advantages. Can you see this? Can you read this point? Form data binding to Java object. So if you go for servlets, do we have this feature? If we go for servlet, do we have this feature, guys? No. In the servlets, we need to write the logic to capture the form data by using request.get parameter. So once you capture the data by using request.get parameter, again, you need to set the data to the object. But in the Spring Web MVC, what is the beauty? You see, I'm just taking object as a parameter. That's it. So whenever we submitted the form, this form fields, name is equal to name, name is equal to email, name is equal to phone number, name, email, phone number. So this data, these keys are matching with my class variables. That's it. Name, email, phone number. So whenever you submit the form, this form data will come to the server in the post request. So this method is binded to post request. So whatever the fields are available in the form fields are matched with my binding class variables. The form fields are matched with my binding class variables. So it captured that form data, it stored it into the object. Now you see, phone number is available as a long value. It converted that phone number into long and it stored it into user object. Name stored, email stored, phone number stored into user object. So when I print a user object, toString method is printing. What the toString method will do? toString method will print the data on the console. Now message I'm saving, user saved. I want to print that message also on the JSP. By using expression language, we can print that message also. By using expression language, we can print that message also. Font color is equal to some green, then dollar of message. Okay. So I want to print that message. I want to print that message on the browser. So now let me go for this user. Let me save the user, submit, user saved. So that means we are able to capture the form data. So once we are able to capture the form data, can we write the logic to save the data in database? Save in DB. Save in database. Can you guys do that? Can you guys do that? Yes. So are you able to understand what is form binding? Are you able to understand what is form binding? Suppose, for example, if you see here, user variable, instead of phone number, I'm giving as PHN. That's it. But what is my variable here? PHNO. Here the key is only PHN. Here the variable is phone number. Now let's observe what will happen when I submit this form. Okay. So user form I'm opening. Now enter the data, mobile number, click on submit. Go to the console and verify phone number value coming or phone number value not coming, guys. Phone number value is coming or phone number value is not coming. Can you tell me? Phone number value is coming or not coming? It is not coming. Why the phone number value is not coming? Can you tell me why the phone number value is not coming here? Form fields are not matching with binding class variables. Form fields are not matching with binding class variables. Here, form field is what? PHN. What is the binding class variable? PHNO. So that's why it is missing that. So here we need to make sure your form field is matching with the binding class variable. Then whenever you submit the form, that form data will be captured and this method will be called. So this method is expecting user object as a parameter. Dispatcher servlet will understand that this method is expecting user object, take the data coming in the request, store into this object and give that object as a parameter for this method. So without writing single line of code, are we able to capture form data in the form of Java object? Without writing single line of code, are we able to capture the form data in the form of Java object? That is the power of Spring Web MVC. That is the power of Spring Web MVC. So whenever you submit a form, if your form fields are matching with Java class variables, then that form data can be stored into Java object. That Java object you can take as a method parameter directly and you can use that object for your operations. you can store that data into database by using save method. That's it. You can store the data into database by using save method. So like this, you can develop the form. Now, I want all of you to practice this form development. Save that record into database also. You know how to work with data JPA. I want you to integrate the data JPA and I want you to insert the record into database. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how to perform validations on this form. Clear, guys? Good. Anybody having any questions? You can unmute and you can ask me now. Anybody having any questions?
Sir, in the request parameter, that logic is there, no previous application @request param.
Right, sir.
We are writing only for the first parameter. We are @request parameter. For the second one, we are not writing, sir. The previous applications, and we are taking two variables as request parameters.
Yeah, we need to write that, sir. If the key name is same now, then no need to write it. Generally, we can write like this.
So @request param is optional if the key name is same.
If your method parameter name and key name is same, it is optional.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, sir.
Sir, we learned that in advanced Java.
Yep.
So servlet parameter got a request and response objects, right?
Correct.
Sir, how that Tomcat transport to our transport to the request and response parameter in Spring controller? Means how this flow will be.
In the Spring controller, you don't need to deal with the request and response objects directly. In the Spring controller, whatever the data that you are sending in the request, right, that will be taken by dispatcher servlet. Whatever the parameters your method is expecting, dispatcher servlet will pass those parameters, will call your method. Whatever the response you want to send the response to the client, we are using model object in the Spring. We don't need to deal with the request and response directly here.
Okay, sir.
If you want the request and response, you can take them also as a parameters here. If you want the request object, you can take it. HTTP servlet request. If you take it, dispatcher servlet will pass the request object to your method. Like this, you can take the method parameter. So who is going to call your method? Dispatcher servlet. When your method is having the request object as a parameter, dispatcher servlet will pass that parameter, will call your method.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Got it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. So I want all of you to complete this form development, guys. Form-based application development. I want you people to do it before coming to the session. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Sir, here in this example, when we are submitting the form, okay, the form values are binded to Java object. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and the method type is here get or post.
Post request. Forms we will forms always we are going to submit with the post request, because if you don't mention the request as a post, the form data will be displayed in the URL. Generally, we should not display form data in the URL. That's why we will map that to the post request.
Okay, post method. Okay, fine. Okay, but we are not using the. There are the annotations at the request body. Okay, without
that request body, response body annotations we will discuss in the REST API, REST controller.
Yes, REST controller, but in Spring MVC, okay, we can use also request body. But without request body, I think we are able to bind the form.
Request body annotation is optional when we are submitting the form data. Okay. So directly it is able to take the data from the request and it is able to store the data into the object. When you go for the REST API, we will send XML data or JSON data. To read the XML data, JSON data from the request body, we will use request body annotation that I will cover in the RESTful services.
Okay. Means for form data, okay, the request body use of request body annotation is optional.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay.
Sir, without writing binding class, can we get the form data from controller methods.
If you don't write the form data, if you don't write the binding class, if you want to capture the form data, then you need to follow the servlets approach. You need to take the request object as a parameter, request.get parameter you need to write. That is the old approach.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So you need to, for this method, you need to take this parameter. Using this parameter, you need to call request.get parameter of name, request.get parameter of email. How you will capture
Yes.
form data in the servlet? In the same way
Yes.
you need to capture here. That is outdated approach.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Sir. Yes, sir. In my current project, sir, they are using HTTP servlet response as a Spring Bean. Means they are auto wiring that class object inside the DAO class, sir. There itself they are returning some whatever model and views, sir.
Can you repeat once again?
Sir, in my current project, HTTP servlet response is a Spring Bean, sir. Means they are auto wired this Spring Bean inside that DAO classes.
Okay.
They are means DAO to service, service to controller is the process we are following. But in that case, they are returning directly DAO to controller.
Can you take the screenshot and send it to me? I will check that once.
Okay, sir.
Sir, one more thing is in the line number 22, we are passing the model object as a parameter, no, sir. That model is only to send some data from the controller to view.
Yes, from controller
only for
to,
that purpose.
If
right?
you want to send the data from controller to UI, then only we will use that.
Otherwise, it is not required. If
No.
suppose if I want to store some data only.
Here, first method, I don't want to send anything to the browser, just I want to send the view page. Then I'm not taking the model object.
Right,
model
sir.
object is only required when you want to send something from controller to UI.
Yes, sir. Understood, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ashok, can you please share the part-time developer website? Last time we said we'll share.
Yeah, yes, sir. I will do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Good, guys. Thank you. So please develop this form application. Save the data in the database table also before coming to tomorrow's session.